Hey guys, so I am about to have my morning coffee and I just thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different this morning. So what I'm going to do is blend some coffees and try and make essentially a more unique or more favorable beverage by combining two coffees instead of just drinking one. So blends have been around since coffee has been a consumer-driven business, essentially well before specialty. What blends have going for them is customers know exactly what a coffee will taste like before they purchase it. So they have expectations day in, day out, year in, year out, what that coffee is going to taste like. So blends has given the coffee industry the ability to succeed tremendously based off of creating a marketing image for customers to use as their guide of what they like in coffee and what kind of flavors they want. They don't have to know a producer or processing methods or region or know the terroir flavor of a specific region and so on. So it's a really easy way to get into coffee and kind of have a general idea for what you like to taste. Another reason why blends are so popular is because they typically are with coffees that are quite low scoring in terms of specialty coffee on the grading scale. And what you can do is then pinpoint, say this coffee tastes like chocolate, this tastes like nuts, and this one tastes like caramel. And what you can do is take these three different coffees and then blend them into one to have a full profile. You know, you have your bitterness, your sweetness, and your acidity, and that kind of complements a good balance on the tongue that we as humans really enjoy. What it's also good at doing is providing a stable experience to say, maybe this coffee from this specific region won't have those three characteristics, but we can always find coffees that'll have at least one of those characteristics, no matter where it's grown, essentially. And always throughout the year, throughout the many years, or even, hopefully decades, we can always come back to that blend and have a group of coffees that can really nail those flavors on the head and provide that same experience for a customer. No matter if they had it many, many years ago or just yesterday. Now, the really interesting thing about blends, when you start getting into the upper tier of like specialty coffee industry and start purchasing really nice coffees for their flavor profile, they typically have all of these different complexities that you can taste in the beans. So, they're going to have a bitterness element, they're going to have a sweetness element, and they're going to have an acidic element. And then maximize that a little bit more, and it's going to be very complex, different acidic elements, different sweetnesses, and just a lot of flavors going on. So it's really, really hard to provide a stable flavor profile with really high-end specialty coffee. I'm talking like 86 plus, like the very specific micro lots of specialty coffee that roasters will pay a lot of money for to have a unique flavor profile. And that is what makes blends for me extremely interesting. It is very hard to do and hard to gather some coffees that'll taste amazing based on their very complex flavor profiles, all blended together to make one singular thing. And then once you take into account that these beans are roasted very lightly, they're going to have a lot of different flow rate traits and extraction traits very unique to those beans. So, you can roast a coffee very dark and it will have a lot of solubility. It'll be easy to extract. But once you have a really lightly roasted coffee of a very high-end specialty micro lot, right? It's going to flow and extract very different than other coffees next to it if they're from a different country, different elevation, different processing methods. So that's what makes this really, really, really hard to do and a lot of fun and quite challenging. I found that some of these blends, when you grind them up and you throw them into a brewer, often doesn't work. And there's ways of balancing that too. Like you can use conical brewers that already provide an uneven extraction so they can kind of hone in on the different flow rates and the different differences of solubility between all these coffees. And so you could kind of play around with it like that, But what I'm going to do today is actually brew 2 different coffees as a cupping method, and then essentially extract them, perfectly, and then blend them into a cup. And I could mess around with the different percentages of, I'm going to use this coffee, 40%, this coffee 60% in my cup, and then we could go back and experiment, and maybe a 20-80% will work. So this will be a lot of fun to taste, and we'll see if we actually prefer it compared to trying both of these coffees separately. So these are the coffees that I'll be brewing today. I have these frozen. They're about a month off roast, just over a month, and I froze them in time. So what we're going to have is this really vibrant, really beautiful Kenyan on the very very west side of Kenya. It's a pretty interesting region that I haven't really tasted much before. It's on Mount Elgin. It's a mountain in Kenya on the west side, borders with Uganda. And also we'll be brewing this Colombian Huila coffee. Now, what's interesting about Colombia's is they always have this kind of like brown sugar sweetness, and usually it's it could be a little bit more lower grown, to where you get more of those chocolatey notes, especially out of like Central American types of coffees. You get more of the body and the texture, compared to something like Kenyan, where it's very bright and very vibrant, and especially a double A Kenyan. Once you start getting into, you're separating bean sizes at origins for like something really big like a double A, you're not going to have much body. You're going to have all loads of acidic traits, very bright, very tart, very forward. So let's combine this and make a blend of, this will essentially be our body and our sweetness, and this will essentially be our acidic complexity, and that'll be our acidic trait of extremely vibrant hibiscus rose hips. So let's get to it and see how it works. All right, so I have my 2 coffees right here, the Kenyan and the Colombian. They are frozen, so I'm going to open these up and grind them inside of the cupping brewers. All right, so I ground both of the coffees on the bentwood grinder at 630 microns. So actually we have a burr touch at 40 microns. So what I'm doing is grinding it at 670, but they're essentially 630 microns off of burr touch. That's how much spacing is between the burrs. So all of my kettles, I have 2 kettles right now, they're heating up to 207 degrees. So this will be a very great test. This is how I actually cup all my coffees. from very light to light medium roasted coffees. I use the same exact recipe, and it works every time on the same grind size, no matter if it's a washed or a natural or an anaerobic, as long as it's a pretty light medium coffee. I don't really drink any other like medium roasted coffees besides that, so that's perfect for me. All right, so here's how I brew it. I'm gonna start the timer, then I'm going to just go around the coffee bed in circles, hitting this so it gets around and really wets everything. And right when it gets here, I'm going to just heavy pour, center pour agitation. Look how it lifts the coffee up. Look how it extracts and penetrates all of the coffee particles. That's what we want. That is good agitation. So when it hits 25 seconds, I'll just pour on top of here to submerge these grounds, go back to the center pour until we hit 540, and perfect. Now we wait. All right, so I have two of my brews right here. This one is the Kenyan and this one is the Colombian. I was just able to smell the difference. Kenyans have a very distinct trait to them, and this is definitely a Kenyan coffee. Let me get a chopstick to stir. All right, and we'll pour these into cups. And let's just taste these alone, and then we can start working on blending. All right. Let's let these cool just for a sec. Ooh. Okay. This is so bright and so sweet. It's funny because I tried this same coffee ground on the EK with really low fines burrs, and you just got explosive florals. And on the bent wood, on the grinder that I ground this on, it really likes to highlight that body and kind of sweetness. It kind of reminds me of like a pink lemonade, but more so on the sweet side versus like a straight like hibiscus tea, what I was getting on the EK. It's actually surprisingly a very stark difference. Okay, that tastes absolutely incredible. I haven't tasted a coffee like this from Kenya in quite a while. All of the Kenyans I've been tasting are from Nairi, it's essentially like central Kenya. And since this is so far west, I don't know if they're doing more of the common practices of what they're doing in central Kenya, which is grafting our favorite varieties, the SL varieties, to roots of something more drought resistant, like the Roiru 11, which is not a favorable cut profile. So of course, you know, you're going to be getting some Roiru flavor traits when you have a plant that has the Roiru roots with the grafted SL on top. So to me, this tastes like a more traditional Kenyan. Very hibiscus forward and very light, vibrant rhubarb. I don't think it's a double washed, which is what they used to do for production issues that they had, which actually made the famous Kenyan profile. It was one of the reasons possibly, but yeah, this is a beautifully bright Kenyan coffee from Tim Wendelboe. All right, now let's try another Tim coffee, so Huila coffee from, I believe it's Finca Tamana, I believe it's his farm, but yeah, let's try it. Okay, little herbal for the acidic trait, but I get loads of caramel and loads of just creamy milk chocolate, which makes me think this will be a perfect coffee to blend, right? Because you have your sweetness and body, and then you have your lovely, bright, intense acidity. So let's blend this in a sec. Let's see which one's a little bit stronger too, and that'll kind of dictate what percentages we should blend. Yeah, because of this grinder too, it makes me want to do more of the Kenyan because it is a little bit more tame on the acidic front. So I think that'll be perfect. All right, so I have an empty cup, and let's grab a scale so we actually know how much we're blending. And I will blend, let's say, I mean, honestly, let's just start out with a 50-50 and see how that goes. So I'll put in 58 grams of the Colombian and another 58 grams of the Kenyan. Spot on. Cool. Stir it up a little bit, mix those concentrations. So this is what you don't get when you buy a blend bag of coffee. You know, when you do that and you brew to the pour over, your extractions are going to be everywhere, flow rate's going to be everywhere, and it's not going to be as evenly extracted as a single origin for the most part. Cool. Cheers. Wow. That is honestly so good. It's just so chocolatey, and then you still get the hibiscus notes. There's a lot going on there though. I really like to be able to pinpoint flavors and have them separated, and this one you can't really do that as much. It's just two very complex, very high quality coffees that have all of those flavor traits that maybe a lower quality, cheaper coffee used for blending only has like one or two. Both of these coffees have a ton, right? So it's very hard to have that kind of flavor separation in the cup. You know, you're not just getting caramel and red fruits, you're getting just like loads of other things at the same time, which kind of, you know, tame it down and bring those flavor complexities down more. Less intense. I do really like that though. I'm actually gonna add more of this Kenyan. Just free pour. And then hopefully that'll allow the florals to really sing while providing a nice backbone of chocolate and caramel. A little bit too much. Just a little bit too much. All right, let's add some caramel in there with the Huila Colombian. Okay. That is very nice. My mouth is getting kind of dry. All right. I am going to reset my palate a little bit and come back in just a few minutes and try it alongside the two coffees before we blended them in this cup versus the blend in this cup. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. I think my palate's a little reset. Been talking so much, my mouth is starting to get dry. All right, so let's try it. I have our Kenyan in the right hand and the blend of the Kenyan and the Colombian in the left. So let's try it on the right. Take a few sips here. Usually when you drink coffee, you want to take about 3 sips and around the same kind of very quickly. It tastes just like tea. Let's try the blend. Man, you get some of those notes. But honestly, it really covers up the tea, the Colombian does with the Kenyan, even though I have quite a bit of Kenyan in here in this blend percentage. I like the chocolatiness. I like the caramel. I like the coating kind of mouthfeel that it gives you, but man, I miss the clarity coming out of here. Yeah, honestly, I think for the majority of people that aren't into specialty coffee, I'd say they want something more chocolatey, something that's less intense, less sour, and straightforward. So that's where, you know, blends do really come in, is they always offer, almost always offer that very chocolatey backbone, right? Which is a comfort coffee, very nice comfort coffee at that. But this is just like you want to dive in, listen to music on hi-fi headphones, and just really pinpoint everything, right? That's the fun of coffee that very focused specialty coffee people like myself like to do, is you just like to explore, pinpoint, and really understand and articulate a very intellectual drink, right? Of different flavors and compounds. And I mean, it's not bad though. Not bad at all. Let's try the Colombian. All right. Okay. So, try the blend again. Oh yeah. As it's cooling, or as I'm tasting two coffees and as it's cooling, a few different things going on. It's getting really caramel forward, right? And this is probably gonna be a little bit warmer just because it was in the cupping brewer, but let's try it. Oh man, okay, this is so much more of a textural experience than the blend with the Kenya. Oh man, this is so nice and sweet, and it's just simple and straightforward. I really enjoy that cup. Now let's try the blend one more time. I think the Kenyan is actually overpowering the texture that you get out of the Colombian. Yeah. All right, let's add some more Colombian. Okay. So far I've favored the Kenyan by itself, and right now I'm favoring the Colombian by itself. Let's add a little bit more Colombian to this and see if we could get a little acidity pop from the Kenyan. Okay, it's pink. It's still pink, but it's highly textural. And add a little bit more Colombian. Just want to get a little bit of that Kenyan in there. My mouth is starting to get kind of dry again, which kind of clouds my flavor experience. Drinking coffee is a lot of work, guys. Like if you have like a thing of incense, even just like a small stick of incense lit, this beautiful Kenyan will just get wiped out. You won't be able to taste it. Coffee is so complicated. It's like essentially like 98.5, 98.6% of your cup is actually water, and literally just 1.4%, depending on how you brew it, but pretty much 1.4% is just coffee. So you think about every other beverage on earth, and what percent can you really taste something that's 1.4%? of something, right? And 98.5, 98.6% water. That's crazy. So if you have anything going on in your room at all, your experience is going to get clouded, right? And like, not even to talk about how you brew it, what water you use, what grinder, and all of these other things. It's literally one of the hardest things to do right, is brew a good cup of coffee. It's so simple, but also so hard. But once you get there and you get everything down to a science, and you maintain it, then you do these tests and you say, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And it's fun to do, right? I'm not doing this to try and find the best of everything. I do it because I like it. And that's what coffee's all about. I think if you're constantly chasing to be the best at something and figure it all out, and you have expectations of getting there, then don't go into coffee, because you'll never get there and you'll constantly be disappointed with the ride. But if you enjoy the ride, it's a perfect thing for you to explore. All right. And the blend. Ooh. That is actually quite nice now. I'm getting a little bit of hibiscus. A little bit of hibiscus with a lot of caramel and chocolate. There's some like herbaliness in the Colombian too, but that is really nice. So textural, man. This is just absolutely phenomenal. I typically don't like Wheeler coffees because they're not that textural, nor do they have a lot of prominent acidity. This doesn't. Tim Wendelboe really played his cards well in how he processed and roasted this coffee, because Wheeler coffees don't often impress me with their acidity. That might be a controversial hot topic, but it's often too all over the place and not really defined, as much as I like defined acidity in coffee. Okay, and let's try the blend. That is really nice. I'm actually getting more sweetness out of the blend than I think I am out of the Colombian. What I'm gonna do now is just kind of let my palate reset. I've kind of wrecked my palate by talking so much, and now my voice is really dry. So I'm gonna take just about 15 minutes, and then I'll come back to it, and then we'll do one last test to finally see, with clarity of mind and clarity of palate, which one we prefer. So, all right, I'll be back. All right, so I am back after about 25 minutes or so. My palate's reset, and let's try these coffees. Also, side note, with brewing with these brewers, it'll still be tasty after like an hour. You know, I know with batch brewers, sometimes some coffees will taste terrible after half an hour of being brewed and sitting in the pot. Others can, you know, sustain themselves for an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on which coffee and like which grinder and brew methods, right? But I really do think that not having a super hot pot, like with something like these, I think that the volatile aroma compounds are held inside of the containers more, and they're not so hot that they're just constantly evaporating and being destroyed inside of a hot urn. So little side note there, but I'm not worried about any sort of like major flavor loss, even after like an hour of brewing with these rattlewares. Same with the cupping bowl too. You always want to check your cupping bowls, you know, an hour or so after brewing, when it's really cold, to see how the flavors lasted. All right, so we have our Colombian coffee and our blend coffee. It's probably like a 20% Kenya, 25% Kenya, the rest Colombian, and 100% Colombian. So let's try the Colombian. That is so sweet. that is so sweet and chocolatey while still being a very light roast. All right, let's try this. It's different. It is different. Oh man. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to act like I'm enjoying it as much. It's still really good, but I definitely enjoy the single origin, the non-blended coffee. Let's try it one more time, and what I'll do is I'll pour the rest of these, and we'll do like a 20% Kenyan, 80% Colombian. And let me dump these out real quick. And I'm gonna grab my scale, and this is what we'll do. We will stir it up. All right, so 20% is gonna be 20, and then the rest, Colombian. 20 grams and 80 grams Colombian. Come on. Cool. All right. And then I'm going to pour the rest in here, in this brand new cup. All right. So Colombian on this side still. Man, once you get to the bottom of these Rattleware cupping brewers, even though I'm stirring for every pour, it's so textural. Oh, it's so sweet. Everything's pushed to the forefront. All right, let's try the 2080. You know what? I am not mad at this at all. That tastes really nice. Okay. Vibrancy still. Let's try this. Hey.
How's the coffee?
Would you like to try these?
Yes. I was hoping that I could have some coffee too.
All right, so we have our Huila Colombian and our Colombian Kenyan blend. So tell me which one you like more.
I match the cups. That one's caramely, sweet.
Right.
Okay, now the blend. Ooh. I still taste the caramely and the sweetness, but there's something else in there.
What do you taste out of that?
Is it like a little bit floral, maybe?
Oh yeah, it's the Kenyan.
Yeah. Cool.
Which one do you prefer?
I think the blend.
Yeah?
I really think I like the blend better. It just gives it a little bit more dimension, I think.
It does. Does it take away at all?
Yeah, I mean, this one, like, the flavor is more spot on. But you're right. I mean, I guess this is like a little bit more, you could consider it muddled, but I like that there's more depth to it. So, yeah, they're both good.
Yeah. It's only 20% of Kenyan.
Oh, really?
All right, so there you have it. I will say that the Kenyan provides something interesting in the blend. Personally, I like to taste them side by side. but some people find excitement in having a little bit more of that acidity punch. And that's especially why blends are so popular amongst specialty coffee. You know, you can purchase more affordable coffees, get them year round, and make a profile that's kind of consistent, right? And especially that blends well with milk. But personally, I really like to drink the coffees that represent terroir, and represent the variety, the processing method, the producer. I think it's important to respect that and think about that and honor what they do in terms of learning and understanding. That's what I find enjoyment in doing. But you could also, you know, respect and honor that inside of blends too, if you so choose. Like, that's absolutely fine. I think this experiment taught me that if I were to blend these coffees, I think maybe I'd go to a 10% Kenyan, 90% Colombian. And maybe I would enjoy that more than just the Colombian. But I really like to just drink single origin coffees. That's what I've done for many years, so maybe I'm just used to it. But other people, you might find blending more fun, and I think it is really fun to blend coffees, blend roasts, blend and taste all sorts of different things. It gets your brain activating in a more creative sense, and I know some people really enjoy that and really enjoy doing that kind of stuff, and it's something I really like doing. I'm happy that I did it, and I look forward to doing it again and experimenting, because, you know, that's why people like me are into coffee. So if you keep on experimenting and having fun with it, then that's what it's all about, right? So I think this has been a wrap. I hope you guys learned something today, and thanks for following along.